Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. Before we get started today, I want to preface this conversation by saying that we have started group coaching as a part of making consulting and getting information to people more accessible and more affordable. So we do group coaching as Map It Forward for roasting, which is led by Ann Cooper, and for leadership and business development, which is led by myself. The reason that I'm telling you about this before we start today's episode is because a lot of what we're going to talk about here is the kind of stuff that we would talk about in these groups when we're talking to business owners about how to approach today's subject. And today's subject is discussing race and entitlement within your team. And so I want to preface this by saying that if you don't know how to have these conversations with your team and you're looking for a support system that works together to help you understand how to have these conversations and other kinds of conversations, you can head to mapitforward.org/consulting. And if you go down the bottom, you'll find links to get to the group coaching, or you can just straight up go to mapitforward.org/group coaching and you'll see how to get access. It's much more affordable than you might think, and it really is starting to make a difference for the business owners and the roasters that are getting involved. So let's dive into it, discussing race and entitlement with your team. How do you go about doing that? This is a really interesting pondering exercise to go on with a business owner that's never had these conversations before. The catalyst behind why that's important right now is that, of course, what's happening in the world with regards to the protests, and I think it's personally and professionally, I think what's happening right now is wonderful. I think that, and I'm hopeful because of it, but I think that entitlement is being held to account, and that's fantastic. It is forcing all of us, every single one of us, are being invited to do an audit within ourselves of what we think about these things. And so when I'm talking to clients and to the coaching groups about how to have these conversations within their team, I'm encouraging people to have these conversations within themselves first, and taking an audit, an honest look into how you feel about your own entitlement and the entitlement of others. How do you feel about other people's value? Do you think other people are as equal as you are? Do you feel that other people have more value than you have? Do you think that this is all just nonsense? Ask yourself these kinds of questions and ponder the responses. You don't owe anybody the truth of the answers to these questions, but you do owe them to yourself right now. Change cannot come, and you cannot expect any kind of change from other people if you're not prepared to do the work on yourself first. So asking yourself, where do I sit on this spectrum? What are my opinions about this? Am I informed? Do I understand what conversation is being had right now? Or am I group thinking? And am I doing what my political party thinks that I should be thinking right now? Am I thinking what other baristas think I should be thinking right now? Am I thinking what other people in the industry are telling me to think right now? And am I disguising what I really think by joining another group so that nobody holds me to task for my real values? There's a lot of that going on in our industry right now. And if that is what's happening, you are being presented with an opportunity in the history of our industry, in the history of our world, to really legitimately go on these pondering exercises. It is important for you to find a way to start exploring these ideas for yourself. And if that's difficult for you, you're welcome to join these coaching groups. You're welcome to find somebody to have these conversations with, either in the industry or contact a consultant. We can help put you in contact with people that can consult for you in your business about leadership in this way. But having discussions like this with people after you've pondered it for yourself, that will actively challenge you. I have a group of people in my life that don't know each other, but there are a number of people in my life that when I need to explore an idea, I call them and I tell them, I got an idea I need to explore. Can we have a conversation about it? And that lets them know a couple of things. I value the way that they think. I think that they are a complex thinker enough and a critical thinker enough that they can explore this idea with me. And it shows them that they have permission to challenge me on the way that I'm thinking. If you don't have people like that in your life, they're a really valuable asset. The next thing, once you have gone on this exploration with yourself, on the journey to have a conversation with your team about race and entitlement, I would suggest that you start with the leadership team and find out, how do the individuals within the leadership team think about race? I'm suspecting, and from the conversations that I've had, the majority of people in our industry have never had, as a business, a discussion about what the individuals in their business think about race and entitlement. And I certainly know that I have had this discussion with clients and they've been shocked about what they've found out about their teams. The leadership teams a lot of the time are telling them things that has surprised them. And so I encourage you, have the conversation with the leadership team all together. What does that conversation look like? It looks like you telling people that you want to get together to have a discussion about race and entitlement. Be very clear about that. Sit people down and ask open questions, but direct open questions. Hey, we're going to have a conversation about race. We're going to have a conversation about entitlement. What are your opinions on equality? That's an open question. It opens it up for people to say their response. Another open question. What is your opinion of the Black community and what happened to George Floyd? You might say, it's not fair to ask people their opinions of this stuff in the workplace. Well, listen, we've had people come on the podcast and talk to us about where insidious behavior lives. If you're not having these conversations in your workplace, I guarantee you, until you ask these questions and understand how the people in your leadership positions are thinking about things like race, gender, sexual orientation, and what their opinions are of those people, you're not going to lead well. And the reason you're not going to lead well is because you won't be able to preempt and be a proactive leader in understanding how you can stamp out something before it could possibly go awry. When people come into a company with the intention of trying to figure out, are there people here that I can take advantage of? They don't come out guns a-blazing telling you that they don't like gay people. They'll throw out a little comment here and they'll throw out a little comment there, and they'll see who picks up on those signals. It will be insidious. And the reason that happens is because the conversations aren't being had openly. So, with your leadership teams, ask these open questions. Once you've asked these open questions, start a deeper dive on the responses. Be encouraging. Don't shame anybody. There's no value in shaming anybody. This is not about that. This is an exercise for you to understand who are the people that hold potentially red flag opinions about race and about gender and about a whole bunch of minority groups. Once you have that opinion, opinion's not the right word, it's actual fact. You're formulating your understanding of what's going on based on what people are telling you. But if you're a good leader, you know how to listen. I don't like the word good leader. If you're an assertive leader, if you're a leader who is active in creating change, an active leader that wants to create a value-driven business, a profitable, value-driven business, then you know how to listen. You know how to ask questions that stop people from answering ambiguously, that don't hold them to any account. It's important to make sure that people don't just give you the answer that they know that you want. If you have a business that is all white people, saying that you've had the discussion with your leadership team about entitlement and privilege and race relations, but doing nothing to change the lily whiteness of your leadership team is a part of the problem. I'm a believer that you shouldn't hire based on a person's identity. You should hire based on a person's skill level and their ability to learn and their ability to grow and their connection with the values of the company. And so given that, you might be saying, well, I don't want to just hire people based on diversity. I don't want to do the diversity hire thing in the leadership team. That's valid. So go and find people who are highly capable and are from different groups, not just the same pool of people that you've been taking from the whole time. Why do you want to do that? Well, because if you look at kinds of things that end up being reflected from a diverse leadership team, some of the benefits of that are that when you hire into a company of people who are not in the leadership team, but people who are employees in a company, you are more likely to have people of diversity come into your company if they see that there is diversity reflected in the leadership team. People see value in having themselves reflected in leadership. They feel that they're going to be heard. They feel that they're going to be able to add more value to the team. The other thing that you get is that you get customers coming into your business that are aligned with your leadership team because the values of that leadership team are reflected through the messaging of your company. Okay, so we've spoken about how you have these conversations with yourself so that you can inform how to have the conversation with your leadership team. Now, how do you have the conversation with the company? Having difficult conversations with the company, the employees within your company, are an important step into setting examples around leading with vulnerability. All the conversations that seem to be being had in 2020 are difficult conversations that are steeped in vulnerability. The worst thing that you can do as a leader is say nothing and just assume that everybody in your team is on board with cultural diversity. They're on board with gender equality. They're on board with a quality for people who identify with anything that is a minority group. It's important to know the way that people think that work for your company. Why? Why should you give any fucks about why the employees who might just be here for 2 months, why should you care what they think about the Black Lives Matter movement? Why should you care what they think about gay people or trans people or any of that? Well, the reason is because they inform the way that your customers engage with your company. They inform the way that your employees engage with each other. Having these conversations will alert you to red flags that could stifle the progress and development of what your company is trying to achieve. Not just from a profitability standpoint, but from a value action standpoint. So if you're trying to grow a culture in your business that is all about happiness, but you have people that are in the business that are just hell-bent on causing problems for people who identify as trans or identify as being gender fluid, you're not going to have cohesion in your team. If you don't have conversations with people and understand what they think about white supremacy, then when things like this turn up, you can't preempt a situation from escalating very quickly. A couple of things to note about approaching these conversations. Acknowledge your vulnerability. Acknowledge the discomfort to your leadership team, to your employees, and to yourself when coming to these discussions. Commit to being open, honest, and accepting of the discussion that transpires. Accept that the conversation may get heated and let it get heated. Let the tension in the room play out. There is a lot of repressed trauma happening or coming to the surface right now, and providing a space to be able to have these discussions is an opportunity for you to create an environment for people to discuss these kinds of things. This is the job of a leader. If there's anything that's become apparent to me in 2020, the single hardest job that you will do as a business owner, as the leader of a team, as the leader of yourself, the single hardest job that you have is to actually lead. It is the most taxing part of what you will do. But if you're going to do it, you should do it well. And in order to do it well, you have to accept the responsibilities and skill yourself with the tools that are required to do the job well. And that means learning how to be assertive rather than passive or aggressive. It means learning how to communicate. It means learning how to listen. It means creating spaces where people can actively share their experiences and talk to you about their grievances. Do you know whether your workspace is an unsafe environment? Or are you just assuming that because you as a leader love everybody, that your leadership team has created and cultivated the same thing because you told them to? Are you aware that they don't have the skills to do that? It's really, really fucking hard being a leader because these are the things that you have to do. But it is a part of your job. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.